for your safety, please stay seated and keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs
You're now entering
of course, if you have an item cameras or phone cameras with you, you're in luck because this is what I like to call a photo safari. So I would recommend taking those cameras out now. Hang on to them tightly and place them into sport, action, or even video setting, and I will give you some of the best ways to get a picture or video to remember these amazing animals later on. But now let's go ahead and get started by making our way into the Little Eternity Forest. That is how we're going to begin this 2-week-long safari adventure of ours. That is correct, friends. We're going to be out here for the next 2 weeks. But you know what? Hakuna Matata, no worries. Those 2 weeks are going to fly by so fast, it'll probably feel an awful lot like 20 minutes or so. Coming up off to the right-hand side, you're going to see one of my favorites back there, kind of hiding, doing some moving back there. It's called the Okapi. Now, the Okapi has some striped pants, striped legs, or striped pajamas that makes them look similar to a zebra. However, they are actually the second cousin of the giraffe. In fact, some of the features that they share with their cousin would be a very similar skull shape, which is just a little smaller.
Look, it's a zebra. I can't even see the zebra.
Back there, striped pattern is actually entirely random, which allows them to blend into their surroundings. In fact, they're so successful at blending into their environment that they actually even earned the nickname, the Ghost of the Forest. And also coming up ahead of us, off to the right, on top of this incline plane here, you're going to see in the bushes a beautiful black and white bird with an orange bill. That bird over there is known as the saddle-billed stork.
Why is it on this side?
Now, the saddle-billed stork gets its name from its orange bill, which seems to be shaped a little bit like an English-style saddle.
I don't see it.
Now, the saddle-billed stork goes standing heights of up to 5 feet tall, and it's also got an impressive wingspan of up to 9 feet long. That's roughly about the same length as the canopy of the bucket heads. If you look on the left side, kind of in the back, laying down though, it's hiding among the rocks. That's the famous black rhinoceros, also called the black rhino.
Oh yeah, I see it.
The black rhino does weigh in at up to about 3,000 pounds, and it's also got a charge speed of roughly.
Don't you dare say that when I'm recording a video for us.
Which of course makes me glad that it isn't interested in
dare you?
The black rhino is actually a very solitary animal that often will prefer to live alone or even in a very, very small and often very, very tight-knit group. Although, you know what? Same. Now, you also happen to see coming up ahead of us off to the left side on top of the hill behind the bamboo is a beautiful reddish antelope with horns known as the bongo, just like the drum. Both male and female bongos have horns, thus allowing them to stay hidden as they run through the cover of thick bushes and foliage. Also to the left, some gray antelope without horns are known as the greater kudu. Now the greater kudu are actually the second tallest antelope out here on the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. They can stand at heights of up to roughly about 55 inches or 4 feet 7 inches tall. But now it looks as though we're going to go ahead and make our way out of the Little Eternity Forest, but we're going to continue on this lengthy journey of ours down into the Safi River. In fact, as we head down into the Safi River, I can actually already see some beautiful white birds with gray feathers, known as the pink-backed pelican. And these pelicans out here get their name from a pink coloration on their backs, which extends to their extremities during their mating season. Now, they are colonial nesters, which of course means both male and female pelican will sit on the egg together at the same time, which I personally feel is very, very romantic. Oh boy, I do see down in the water on the left side going for a swim. Oh, in the distance on the left though, on land. It looks like the very famous Nile hippopotamus, or the hippo. Now the one that is going for, or looks like it's going for a swim, I mean, of course I say it looks like it's swimming, but it is of course an excellent swimmer, although they typically will prefer to just sink down to the bottom of the river and walk along the bottom.
I can't.
So of course that's when it gets a little more likely that these hippos here in the water are just going for a stroll.
Yeah, I see him.
The hippo is actually one of the heavier animals on the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. They can weigh in at up to about 5,500 or 5,500 pounds, making them actually quite heavy, in fact. In fact, it's also rather rare to see them outside of the water as well. I do happen to hear the distinctive sound of a ticking clock coming from somewhere up ahead of us, indicating you're now getting closer to the famous Nile crocodile. Now the crocodile does, of course, grow to lengths up to about 16 feet. That's on average, roughly 12 to 14 feet long. And they can grow to weights of up to about 500 pounds. That's around about 1/10 or 10% the weight of a hippo. The crocodile is, of course, also known for having one of the strongest bite forces in the entire animal kingdom, as those jaws of theirs can actually chomp down with a crushing force of up to about 2,000 pounds per square inch. That actually allows them to eat up to roughly half of their body weight in a single feed.
Wow.
You know, those are just a few of the reasons I personally would encourage you to never smile at a crocodile. But of course, now it looks like we're making our way here into a change in the foliage, indicating that we are now getting a little bit closer to the savannah. In fact, you know, I think it might actually be time for us to just make our way down into the savannah proper. And we're going to try to see if we can't get a real nice up close and often very personal view of each and every single one of all the awesome and amazing animals who use the wide open spaces of the savannah as their home.
I'm so excited.
Oh boy, you know, friends, I can actually see a bit of a dazzle up ahead off to the right. And by that I mean a dazzle of zebras. Yes, it is what a group of zebras is called. In fact, it's a name they get for their group name because the stripe pattern on a zebra is actually symmetrical from their hindquarters all the way up to their head. And that actually allows it to easily blend into a group
Getting
of
them.
zebras.
Oh my gosh,
They're
Dad.
actually so successful at blending
Dad,
into
move your
a group of
camera. I
zebras.
cannot get them.
When the light
Yeah,
from the
move
sun
your
reflects off
head,
their stripe pattern, it will actually
Dad.
dazzle. That's the primary that attempts to distinguish one zebra from
Dad's
the
big
entire
old head
group.
was blocking the way.
Now these zebras here happen to be the Hartman's mountain species of zebra, as they are one of the smaller species of zebras. They do happen to have the largest heart out of all zebra species, which is actually rather useful as they will typically live in a high elevation location, such as mountainous terrain, where the atmosphere does tend to be very, very thin.
Grandma, look at his butt. I got that camera, Grandma. I got that on camera.
Now you happen to see coming up ahead of us off to the left, laying down in some interesting gray or black antelope species known as the wildebeest. That's right, friends, wildebeest are technically an antelope species, but the word wildebeest is an Afrikaans word meaning wild beast. So they're in fact literally an antelope and a wild beast all at the same time.
He's like, stop looking at
Also
me.
see off to the left behind the wildebeest are some reddish antelope with curved horns
Cutie.
known as the sable antelope.
But look at these
Now,
guys.
the sable antelope, they actually have some special significance out here
Right?
to the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. That's because we actually use them as a symbol of
What
the
is
Harambe
that?
Wildlife Reserve. They also are some of the most protective out of all antelope species.
Grandma, it's a hill.
In a circular formation with their one space boundaries,
I'm
such as
recording.
to much more easily protect themselves.
Isn't it? Both my grandma. Get that true that.
Now I also happen to see up ahead of us, laying down, the kai is an antelope species that kind of looks somewhat like a gazelle or an impala. They're laying down on the right in the distance. They're rather small though, so they might be kind of hard to see.
I see them.
That's actually my favorite of the antelope out here. They're known as the springbok. Now the springbok, they actually get their name from how they spring into motion. Those little guys can actually leap forward up to about 13 feet and hop up at up to about 6 feet into the air. Although when they do so, it is neither called a hop, jump, leap, skip, or spring, as it's actually called a pronk. Now when these little guys here pronk, they are very quick, as they can actually do so at up to roughly 60 miles per hour. So I of course like to say that they are about as quick as they are adorable. And also it looks like we're making our way here into a bit of a tower. That would be a tower of giraffe. This, of course, that is what a group of giraffe is called. Now, the giraffe is, of course, the tallest animal on the savannah. They can actually stand at heights of up to 20 feet tall. That's on average about 16 to 18 feet tall. Of course, they also are up to about 6 feet tall when they're first born. Now, interestingly enough, a female giraffe will give birth standing up. So that does actually mean that a baby giraffe or calf would have about a 6 foot under up to the ground when they're first born. In fact, you know, I actually like to say the first thing that a baby giraffe would feel is gravity. But you know what, friends, don't not to worry. That drop actually does help to push the air out of the baby's lungs. So I guess it works out okay for a baby giraffe in the end. In fact, if you were to take a real close look at the pattern, or any of the patterns on these giraffe to the right, you might notice that the edge to their pattern is very sharp and jagged. That's how you can tell that they are, in fact, the Maasai species of giraffe. In fact, each pattern on a giraffe is unique to the individual, as no two patterns are the same. Kind of sort of like our fingerprints. I also see coming up ahead of us, on top of the rocks back there in the tree line, you're going to see the largest monkey in the entire world, the mandrill monkey. Now, male mandrills, they can actually weigh in at up to about 100 pounds, while female mandrills are actually about half the size and half the weight, up to about 40 pounds. So that one that we saw is probably a male. Now, the mandrill monkey does, of course, actually have a tail. It is just very short and kind of sort of stub-like, which is actually one of the key distinctions of a monkey versus an ape. As in fact, actually all monkeys have tails, while all apes actually don't have a tail. Now, it does look as though we found the timbo off to the right-hand side. And of course would be the elephant. Now, the word timbo is the Swahili word for elephant. Now, the elephant does actually weigh in at up to roughly 13,000 pounds. That's going to be roughly about 6.5 tons. That of course means that they can actually grow as an adult to be up to about the same size and weight as an unladen semi-truck. Of course, they can also eat up to roughly as an adult, of course, up to about 300 pounds of forage per day. In fact, that actually caused it to be a bit of a pest problem to a group of farmers over in Kenya. Naturally, that's something those farmers obviously did not like one bit, as they were losing a very large portion of crops to the elephants. That's because many of the elephants would walk too close to the farmers' crops. They would eat what they perceived as a free buffet. But of course, Disney obviously did not want the elephants losing out on their habitat. Nor did they want the farmers losing more of their crops, which made up a very large percentage of their income. So they actually made use of some knowledge they learned about elephants right here on the Harambe Wildlife Reserve, which is that elephants are in fact afraid of bees. So they took that knowledge over to Kenya, where they built a very special fence around the crops called a bee fence or beehive fence. So now when the elephants walk too close to the crops, instead of eating that buffet, they disturb the fence. This disturbs the bees. The bees will then fly out and begin buzzing as they do. And then the elephants, upon hearing that buzz, will become spooked and scared and go around the crops. That program also works out nicely for the farmers in the end, as they have now gained a new crop, which actually would be that of the bees' honey. In fact, if you'd like to support that project in the end, you can even go online and order some of that imported honey from Kenya by simply looking up the name of that project, which would actually be that of the Elephants and the Bees Project. Now, I do also see some other interesting animals coming up ahead and off to the right side. I mean, of course, there is the very famous giraffe, like you see by the really large tree to the right, as well as also the large horned cattle. Now, these cattle out here